You're listening to the Chasing Tails Outdoor Podcast, where when you can't be in the outdoors, we bring it to you. Man, what about that new intro, Chase? That is some sick music.
Yeah, man, you spent some time on that intro and kept sending me little prototype intros, and I think we finally came up with something that'll be will be cool for everybody for our podcast.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, we started by redoing our intro for YouTube, and that people were talking about how we dropped the old intro, which was just a little too long. It was good. It was a fun intro. It was the original intro, but it was a touch long, and so we've been playing with some stuff, and 2020 is going to be a big year for us. So we thought, why not just go ahead and have a fresh new intro for the podcast? And here we are, dude. Deer season is upon us. You still haven't made it into the woods. What is this, like post 5 days now from the opener of the season?
Yes, it is. I was joking with you earlier today that I broke a record this season on the amount of days that hunting season has been open, and I have yet to get in the woods with a stick and string yet. But that's about to change. I didn't get out. I made the fatal flaw of opening morning. I was scheduled to work. So I'm like, I'm just going to work. I'm not going to take off. And sure enough, one of the bucks that I'm kind of after makes an appearance on one of my cameras in the morning time, and hadn't done that yet. Probably within the last month, hadn't made like a morning time appearance on that camera. It had all been kind of evening time, like either right at last light or a little bit after last light. And he just happened to stroll on through with a slew of other bucks. So I don't know if it was just that little cold snap that we had come in that had them on their feet, or maybe, who knows, maybe there was a hot doe in that area or something that had all those bucks in that area. But yeah, it's upon us, and I'm looking forward to getting out and my first sit, and hopefully bring some content to everybody with taking the camera out this year.
Yeah, man, dude, I gotta say, I'm really excited about that. I'm actually a little disappointed at the same time, because I have taken the camera out 4 different times, and through a variety of issues, largely rain, I've not been able to do any filming. But I think what I'm most excited for is the fact that between the two of us, there should be like hunting content being dropped on a weekly basis, which is going to be unreal considering our season starts now and runs through the end of January.
Yeah, I'm hoping we can get at least half of that content out there for everybody. And my season starts to really get good probably in the next, 3 weeks or so. And that'll ride out for a month, and that'll put me straight into the Iowa hunt. So hoping that I can get some content, maybe catch up with some deer. I'm hoping that you're going to catch up with some deer here shortly too. And yeah, we can kind of push that out to everybody, and they can be able to enjoy some of the stuff that we get to experience down here in Florida, because I know quite a few of our listeners are from like Midwestern states or the Northeast and don't really have an idea of how it works down here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's going to be some good things happening. We've got some excellent quota hunts that we drew this year. I'm going to be hunting with a rifle this year, which is going to open up a lot of opportunities. I mean, it's going to be a fun year, and I'm excited that it's here. And dude, for some reason, I don't know who north of us, whether it's Kentucky or Tennessee or any of our neighbors north, somebody left the refrigerator open, and I would appreciate it if they would just leave it cracked for us, because we are experiencing unseasonably cool weather right now.
Yeah, we are. I mean, I have been super surprised at the weather, because generally this time of the season, like, you're still in the 90s in the evening time, and it's
pure suffering.
Staying like in the mid 70s right now for the evening times, and been pretty cool in the morning times too. So it's been great. I've had some buddies that have gotten out and they've already had success. I actually had a buddy that he shot a buck opening morning and evening this year. And then I've also got just a slew of doe pictures sent to me from some of my buddies. So there's already deer hitting the ground here in Zone C. So it's been good to see.
Yeah, for sure. It's been an absolute blast. So, and it's going to just get better, because I start chasing the rut in Southeast Georgia in October, and pretty much from early October onward, there should be some form of rutting activity occurring somewhere where we're hunting, and it's gonna be a good time, man. It's gonna be. I'm really excited. This cool weather's really got me jonesing. So, um, yeah. Speaking of jonesing, Adrian, this week's guest, the dude just straight up hammered a beautiful velvet buck up in an early Tennessee hunt or early season Tennessee hunt just a few weeks ago, and I'm kind of envious of that dude.
Yeah, no, I mean that is a very unique hunt that they have there in
Yeah.
Tennessee. It's like seems like the last few days of August, where it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, where they get to go out and pursue velvet deer, which is a bucket list thing of mine. And it was good to be able to watch the video from Tethered because Adrian's featured in that video and kind of get an idea of what it's like to pursue a velvet buck in August.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's let him get to that episode. I hope you guys enjoy it. Adrian is just a great dude. He cuts up the entire time through the episode, and I can't wait to one day share camp with that guy.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I call him Big A. Everybody else knows him by Big A Sports on Instagram. Adrian Wilson, dude, what is going on, man?
Guys, what's up? Yeah, glad to be back. Appreciate you guys extending the hand there. Always a good time talking to you boys.
Yeah, man. I mean, there are people in this world who you talk with. There are people who you just laugh at all the time and are always cutting up with. And Adrian is one of those guys who is just constantly cutting up, no matter like if you see some people tag you. Everybody's got a friend like this. Where you see they've tagged you on Facebook and you just know that it's a joke. Like you gotta get there as quick as possible. And Adrian is always always making memes of me. He even photoshops me like half naked in some of them. We won't go there, but you know.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you're laughing at me or with me half the time, so I'm just always on guard. I mean, it's easy to laugh at me for sure. So I just take the other direction. Think, yeah, it's funny, so we're all just going to laugh, hoping in the back of my mind that I haven't done something. So,
You've seen Anchorman, right?
oh yeah,
Yeah, when he's sitting there and he's like, "We are laughing." That's how I envision you, dude. It's like you're you're laughing, but you're not certain why. But 2020 has been a weird year, dude, and you're here to share what has to be one of the best opening weekend stories. But before we do that, man, kind of outline what does your 2020 fall schedule look like?
so yeah, I started off here in Tennessee. We have the Velvet Hunt in August, which is a 3-day hunt, and then regular deer season doesn't start. Actually, starts this weekend here in Tennessee. I went to Atlanta for their Georgia opening weekend. You and I talked a little bit
Yeah.
during that. So went down there. Obviously, try and tag out here in Tennessee. I will. Kentucky's so close. I'm going to mix in a couple of Kentucky hunts. In about 2 weeks, I'm meeting up with Mr. Timber Ninja Jason Red, and we're going to do a black bear hunt, which will be a new experience for me. Pretty stoked about that, with the option of whitetails as well. And then looking at maybe going back to Atlanta, and I host a Tennessee hunt here at the end of October, which you guys are always invited to, but just can't seem to make it for time scheduling. But anyway, going to Missouri with a bunch of the Tethered boys, and that'll be my first time there, which I'm stoked about. And then I'm going to wrap up the season with Mr. Ernie Power. We're going to go to Mississippi, where I shot that swamp donkey last year, and meet up with a guy that knows the area real well, and kind of that's going to be in January. Anything in between is always possible to open up, but it's pretty busy, anyway. So, but nothing's off the table.
Yeah. I mean, now people don't think about Mississippi as as a big buck state, but yours, it was like 130 inches, right?
I honestly couldn't tell you how big he was.
Gotcha.
I've so many, not to be negative, people that look at that. I see a deer, and if I like it and it looks good, and I'm happy with it, and I want to shoot it. I'm serious. I mean,
I know
that's what
you're
I go
serious.
for.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't. I've only had one deer scored ever,
Mm.
and it was my biggest, and that was in '09 or 2010, and it was like, I don't even remember. It was like 144 and change or 145 and change. And so I've tried to stick with, just deer I'm happy with. And so, the Mississippi deer had a lot of mass on him. But yeah, I would say now I would say mid 130s would be my guess, but
Yeah,
I have no clue.
yeah. He's a stud, dude. You hammered a monstrous deer.
And, I'd never hunted the swamps. It's not like a lot of people are like, what's it like? Or, what experience? I'm going in blind. There's a lot of luck involved in hunting, especially when you're going into a new area.
Mm-hmm.
It had rained down there like crazy, and a lot of the high ground that they called high ground was underwater. So you had to find higher high ground. And we actually had to we were way back there. I couldn't tell you how far, but we had to take two different boats. We had to take a pirogue to get across one portion of water. Then we found some high ground, walked about 250 yards. Then there's another boat he had tied up, hidden in the woods on this property. It's public land. And then we went to another location, and he's like, look, dude, these deer could be anywhere in here. Because we hunted together and or went together, and they could be anywhere in here. Good luck, type of thing. I was like, all right. He goes, I'm going to go about 300 yards this way. I was like, all right. So I just walked around looking for the freshest sign I could find. And literally, everybody talks about the fresh sign, and specifically buck sign. Half this place was underwater. Like you'd walk a little bit and then you'd be in water. And so I just found the freshest prints that I could find. And they were does. And in Mississippi in that time of year, the rut's going on. So I'm thinking, okay, if does are using this, and it was more than like one or two tracks. There's like a few tracks. So I'm thinking, okay, this might be a good spot. And it just worked out.
So let's talk about the hunting that it's like there in Tennessee, because Parker came on this podcast a couple weeks ago, and much to the disdain of several people, he outlined Tennessee as the preeminent out-of-state place for people in the Southeast to travel to hunt, and you kind of made a case for that opening weekend.
Well, first of all, Parker shouldn't be telling everybody that because I live here. So that just makes it harder for me, and I have a hard enough time as it is. No, Tennessee now with their velvet season, and it's a 3-day hunt there in August, and with West Tennessee having the CW. So let me just outline it. Tennessee started 3 years ago with a velvet hunt in August. Our regular deer season does not open up till usually the last weekend of September-ish, right? So 3 years ago, they opened up a velvet hunt that the guidelines were, it's a bow-only hunt, and it's got to be on private land. Well, when CWD hit the west part of Tennessee, they went in and made some adjustments to say, okay, we want to try and take some of these deer out. So they opened up certain counties that were CWD hotbeds to be public land also, and you could use a rifle. So that has prompted a lot of out-of-state hunters, a la Parker McDonald, to go to those places because now you can hunt public land. because it's hard for a lot of out-of-staters to get access to some private land. I mean, not that it's not impossible, but it's just easier to go hunt public land and take a rifle. And I don't blame out-of-state hunters for doing it. I'd do it too if I given the opportunity, I guess. But having an opportunity at a velvet deer, most I would guess most hunters, I have no percentages, I'm just talking now out of my mouth here, but don't have that opportunity, especially here in the South. So when you get that opportunity, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, man. I, I would die to have that kind of opportunity here in the state. Chase, as many deer as you get on camera in that August timeline, I think you could do some absolute damage yourself.
Yeah, I've been hoping that Florida would have some type of velvet hunt. Even if I've even discussed it, like even if they opened up the season a couple of weeks early and just made it like, if they wanted to even make it harder, make it like traditional archery or something. I mean, I'd go out, I'd buy a trad bow, get everything dialed in just to be able to do that hunt. And it seems like most of the deer here are dropping their velvet probably around that almost mid to late August here. So it'd actually be about a month too, like a month before our season got kicked off to be able to take a velvet deer. And last year it was surprising. I did have a deer that was like right on the border that held on to his velvet like a day before the season started. Like he just started losing his velvet. But everything else had been out of velvet for almost a month. And he started losing his late for some reason. But yeah, they're definitely on a more predictable pattern early season or before the season when they're in velvet and they're more bunched up.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, that's why I was able to kill one during the velvet hunt. I had cameras, and this year's the first year I had cell cameras. And if you don't have them and you can afford them, get them because they're nice. But and I'm not saying any certain brand or anything. I'm cheapo, so I went with cheap stuff, but it paid off for me. I'd ran them for about a month and a half at that point in time. Maybe even 2 months, and I was getting regular buck footage on these cameras within a day to 2 days of each other. And I knew with this 3-day velvet hunt so based on where I was at, there was not going to be any morning hunting for me. I was not going to, all the sign and all the cameras told me it was all afternoon stuff anyway. And so I was not even going to risk boogering it up and going in the morning time. So my plan was, okay, I get Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to hunt. And if I'm seeing these deer, every other day to every 2 days, there's a good chance one of these days is going to work out for me if I don't, boogered up with a scent or just human sign or whatever. And it just so happens that first afternoon, actually about an hour earlier than I'd been seeing them, Buck came out by himself, and typically he'd been with a running buddy, and then there was another couple that had been with him at times too, but he was by himself. And I couldn't have scripted it any better. It just again, obviously some homework went into it and some scouting and camera, and I had certain cameras placed strategically on where I'd seen some sign, and my scouting had told me. But the deer, as we know, deer have a mind of their own, and sometimes it seems like there's no rhyme or reason for what they do, or it's like they got a sixth sense. But this one didn't, and I was able to stick them, and now I've got my first velvet buck.
So
Nice.
I'm curious. You're a lot like me in that I don't really get caught up in what is a buck score. Like I also recognize that it's like a terminology of like it's a means of communicating with people, right? Like it doesn't necessarily have to be a trophy standard. But I'm curious going into this, knowing there was going to be a camera over your shoulder. What were you hoping to shoot?
Oh, I had 4 target bucks,
Okay.
and uh, I wanted one of those 4. It didn't matter which one. Like I was going to be happy with any of them. Obviously, some were bigger than others. Um, and this is just me guessing, just by looking at trail camera pictures, that they were anywhere from 130 to maybe the tail end of 140s. I don't think any were bigger than that. I do have a deer bigger than that last year on that property. That I forgot a camera that I stuck out during uh, late season last year just to see what, because I'd never hunted this property for deer ever. Um, this is my girlfriend's property, or her family property that
Oh snap!
nobody, yeah, that nobody was hunting, and you know, my first thought was, this. Let me check and see what this is like for the velvet hunt next year, and so going back to your question, I was going to be happy with any of those 4 deer if any of them would have come out, and my thought was, we're shooting, we're filming here, for tethered, and we want to get. It's kind of like like you kind of said, kind of get people jacked up for the deer upcoming deer season, because most deer seasons haven't started at this point when we were filming this in August. And I was hoping for, in a perfect world, us getting some cool footage and having a lot of other deer come out, and we get to film them. And then at the end of the day, at some point, hopefully, I get to stick one, and we watch him fall, and you see me being the hero walking up to this deer and all this stuff. And it didn't happen that way, but it kind of told a story. It took a different route. Ends up with a happy ending. For me, some people may look at that differently, but I'm not concerned with anybody else's thoughts but mine. I'm happy, and it is what it is.
Well, you couldn't ask for better weather, I don't think.
Oh, well, Hurricane Laura. And there's so many things I guess we could talk about in this hunt, like controversies, and you hear them talked about a lot or discussed, whether they're in forums or podcasts. And do you hunt during the rain, before the rain, after the rain? Like, so many questions. And is this ethical? Is that ethical? And first off, let me say this. So this is the velvet hunt. I'm not going to do anything. I don't look at myself at all as an unethical hunter. If I don't have a good shot on an animal, I'm not going to take a wild shot. I'm going to give honor to that animal the best way I can, and with my background. And here's the thing, and this isn't in an arrogant way. This is more luck than anything. I've always watched deer, whether I'm shooting with a bow or a rifle. I've watched the deer fall in eyesight and die, or I heard it go right into a wood line or on the other side of a tree and crash and die. I've never had a deer run off and I've had to do a big time track job or I couldn't find a deer. I've never had that. So in my mind, like, I'm bad at a lot of things. There's so many things I'm bad at, but I'm very confident in my shooting skills with a bow. I am, based on, again, because I've never lost one. I've missed a couple, sure, especially early on. But going in, and it had rained all morning, and we get in there about 2:30, and I had to do. We were in 2 trees that were literally, we could reach out and give each other a high five in, and I set up both of them. The cameraman, John Gibbs, that Tethered hired, does a heck of a job, but he's new to the saddle hunting area, and he's actually not a hunter. So I go in and set up 2 trees, put 2 platforms up there, and right before we get to the base of the trees for the first time, the bottom drops out from the Hurricane Laura rains. And all I was thinking about, and I talked to him about it, is like, when this rain stops, we need to be here. Like, so that's why we got there as early as we did. Like, I wanted it, with these storm fronts or what these movements coming through. If you're at home, you're not doing any good. So I was going to suck it up and hunt in the rain, or hopefully when the rain stopped. And that's what happened. Let's see, 2:30, I said, is when we were there. 15, 20 seconds before that shot I took was around 5:30ish in the afternoon. And I was literally showing John on my phone pictures of where that deer has been coming out. And we're talking about, hey, he's been coming out here in about an hour. And literally my phone's in my hand. I'm showing that. He just happens to look up and says, "Big buck." And he was coming out of the wood line in the area that I'd had him on camera. And it had been sprinkling a little bit, but it wasn't really raining. His camera was covered up under a raincoat. And here I am, like a big dummy, with my phone in hand, and I don't have a bow. And, I'm sitting here breaking nervous at this point because, yeah, it's sprinkling a little bit. My hands were a little slippery. And I'm sitting there, all I can think about is, don't drop your phone, don't drop your phone, don't drop your phone. And then I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I got to put my phone somewhere so I can grab my bow. And just so happened, usually I would have just dropped it in my bag. Well, I just got through drinking a water out of a plastic water bottle, and it was sitting on top of my bag, or right on the inside. So I was thinking, if I drop my phone in there, it's going to hit that plastic bottle and make that crunch sound. And so I grabbed I remembered I had cargo pockets on my pants, stuffed it in the cargo pocket, grabbed my bow. He's getting his camera at that time, and the deer had come out of the wood line at about 30 yards, and it wasn't running or anything like that. It was just, it never stopped. It just kept walking. And I grabbed my bow and I draw back when he was about 15, 16 yards, and end up shooting him somewhere in there, 14, 15, 16 yards on a quartering away shot. And, you guys, I guess, saw the video of it, and he runs off what looks like straight through the corn.
What was that feeling like in that moment when you saw him run off? Because there was a fair amount of that arrow sticking out.
So I have a lighted nock on there, so obviously you can see that with the naked eye pretty good without having to go back and look at the film. I heard the schwack. Like, I knew in my mind, I'm replaying it without seeing the footage and thinking that the sound sounded really good. And I couldn't tell at the time in lifetime how much the arrow was sticking out. I knew it was sticking out, but I've had that happen. Like, I've shot deer before where I've hit opposite shoulder or something, and the deer dies right there. But so I'm how it is. I was kind of a mess after that. I'm shaking. John, the cameraman, this was he's filmed a lot of things, but this was his first actual hunt where there's a kill involved, and his knees were knocking probably more than mine was at the time. He was just, yeah, he was so excited. And I'm excited, and he's got the camera on me, and he's so pumped, and he's wanting me to talk, and I'm like, bro, just give me a second. I just yeah, let me compose myself for just a second. And then I talk after that just for a second, and then we go back and look at the footage, and just through his camera. I'm like, man, it looks good. It sounds good. I told him, I was like, typically I would sit this one out for a couple hours. But rains are expected to come back in. And I don't want to lose a blood trail. And so we get down after about 15 minutes and go and see where the point of impact was. And you can see his hoof marks where, they're deep, where he's taken off running. And we're trying to follow those because we don't see any blood at all. And the portion of the video, I don't know if you can see the whole cornfields except when he has his drone footage out. Like the cornfields are so vast, like where they're at. They're just right next to a river, and I'm kind of worried that he's went and died in this corn somewhere, and it's so kind of thick in there. I'm just like, man, without blood, it's like I almost felt like it was a needle in the haystack type of situation, but especially when there's other deer tracks in there too, and I'm trying to follow this one particular buck track, but there's other bucks coming in there too. And after it's been sprinkling, it's kind of I don't have any background on doing any kind of trailing really, just because I've never had to. I mean, that's just been my experience. And I know it's luck. I've been lucky, but now I'm sitting here having to try and find this deer based on tracks because there's no blood, and we're sloshing around, and we just feel like he's in the corn somewhere dead, and we're grid searching the corn and can't find anything. And it gets to be, I don't know, sometime after between 9 and 10 o'clock that night, it's dark. And I was like, that knock will be lit up. We should be able to see it. And we can't find it. And I was like, let's try and get a dog. And it had rained at that point, but it was nothing hard. It was still more just around the sprinkle, which was just a little bit more than that. So we decided to back out, try and call a dog in. And we made a point to not walk. When we came in to that setup that day, we were not going to walk the edge of the field in case deer were coming out and didn't want to get our scent there. So we tried to go in at one point, and it was just so thick. So we moved down about 50 to 100 yards and went in there and walked straight through the corn. But on the way out, we're going to take the easy way out. So we were going to walk the edge. So we go about 60 yards from the point of the impact of the shot, and I can see my arrow lit up, and I take off running because it's flat out dark out there, and I'm just thinking that that's my deer because the arrow's there. Because the last thing I saw was the arrow was sticking in him as he ran off. So I get to the arrow, there's no deer, but the arrow is it looks like, based on the way the deer ran into the wood line that goes up a ridge, and the arrow, about 60% of it is covered in good looking blood. And people shoot what they shoot or have their own opinions and stuff. I am shooting a NAP kill zone. Yes, it is a mechanical broadhead. I've shot them for years, and like I said, I've never had an issue. I did want to look into heavier arrow setups. I had elbow surgery in March, and with that being said, I'm a perfectionist, and I'm going to practice with stuff, and I'm going to feel confident in whatever I'm using, again, for me and for the animal. And so I had that elbow surgery. I didn't get to start shooting till the end of July. And at that point in time, I didn't feel like I had enough time to get it where I wanted to get it. So I didn't bother with it. I figured, hey, I would look at doing potentially heavier stuff after this season when I had time in the spring and late winter to to play with it, because I'm not going to just do it for a few days and then say, oh, I'm good. Like that's just not my personality. I'm gonna give it a couple months. And I didn't have that, so I wasn't going to change things based on, I didn't get to, like I said, when I first drew an arrow or my bow back in July, I was only doing it at 50 pounds because of my doctor didn't want me to pull that weight, and I could pull the tendons back out of my elbow. So, I'm doing that. So I've had some complaints about the broadhead I used, or I'm not shooting an adult arrow, and I've learned new nicknames that I've never heard of. I'm shooting Twizzlers and whatever that is, and other names. And the thing is this, it doesn't bother me. I don't care. Everybody has their opinion, and they're free to voice that. But so, in the video, when you see that arrow, and I mean, regardless, at this point, the deer was dead and recovered. Not to where I got the meat though. So anyway, we backed out and tried to call a dog in, and they couldn't get one that night. But he said he'd come first thing in the morning. Well, overnight it rained really hard, and at this point, I'd still found no blood. So except for on the arrow. And so the next morning we get out there with the dog handler. Great guy. He was local, and he came out with his dog, and he got on some blood right around where we found that arrow, where that deer had entered the woods, and dog just couldn't get on it. And that was 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. We searched till 3. The dog left after a couple hours, but we searched till 3. It's hot and tired. Rains were done. And I just kept replaying the video, and the tethered guys were trying to help. They're looking at it. We're just trying to figure out all these things, and trying to look at different things on Onyx. And so I just really felt in my heart the deer was dead. So Sunday morning, me, some guys, you guys that are local, you might be familiar with the hunting SOBs, and then another friend, saddle hunter John Malig, and then my girlfriend Rebecca. We went back out there, and in my head I kept thinking, and one thing I left out of the story, when we were walking out that night, I heard coyotes in a certain area, and
are they particularly bad where you are?
Yes, but it's not uncommon to hear them on a nightly basis there. But But Sunday, I was trying to, the last 2 days, I never lost a deer, and I'm sick over it, right? I am. I'm sick. I feel like there's a dead deer out there. I really, in my heart, felt there's a dead deer out there, and so I had a little time to compose myself. I guess Saturday evening, John Gibbs, after we got back to the house, he had to go back. He's down in Georgia, so he had to leave. And so I had some time to think and kind of plot my next course of action. So when we got out there Sunday, everybody kind of took, went their own direction as far as like in a grid area. Well, I went straight up the ridge, and on the backside of that ridge, I looked down there, but I did not go down there. I kept thinking he was going to this bedding area, but he didn't. So anyway, there's a creek that's very, very small at the bottom of the other side of the ridge. So I walked down there and decided, if I follow this creek downhill, if I got lungs on this deer, he's burning, he might want water. And then after running uphill like he did, he ran uphill. He's probably going to go back downhill. And it's not like a steep grade, it's just a low grade. And then it hit me, hey, that's where I heard the coyotes. And so I get to the creek, and I walk about 10 yards, and I hear flapping of wings. And I look up, and there's a big bird. I didn't know what it was that just flew off. I walk about 5 more steps, and then I see 2 more birds fly off, and I see that these are vultures. I just take off running because I know it's the deer. And as I start running, I get a whiff of this awful smell that felt really good to smell, actually, because I knew what it was too. and I found the velvet buck. Nothing, just his hide and straight up bones. The velvet is 99% intact and good. The worst thing about it is obviously there's no meat. I hate that very much so. And I've even been called out because I said I'm stoked I found my deer. Well, yeah, I'm stoked I found my deer because I've got the deer. It wasn't all for nothing type of thing, and it's a feel good thing for me. And I do have the velvet horns to go with it, and it was just a really happy moment for me. I was by myself, and I just started screaming at the top of my lungs so everybody'd hear me. And people come running in, and I can hear them screaming like out of excitement for me, and just a really, really good feel good moment.
Well, so how far did he run?
So from the shot, from where he was hit, and where I found my arrow, that was about 60 yards, and he went. When I say there's a ridge, it's really steep. He went straight up this ridge and back down the backside. So all total, it looks to be about 140 yards. But some of that may be due to being dragged by the coyotes, because
Sure.
later on the way out, I found some internal organs that been pulled out of him about 25 or 30 yards away from actually about the area that I came down the ridge to the creek.
So my takeaways from this are, one, nature's cruel, and sometimes things don't die easily. Like, I mean, I've seen animals that have suffered as different predators have fought over them. If that deer died, if you found that body within 140 yards of where you shot it, you did your job. That deer died a quick death. And I think it's awesome that you recovered, that you were able to recover the antlers. I mean, yeah, the meat went to waste, and you probably didn't want that, but it sounds like you did your job, dude. I mean, I think it's awesome.
Well, I appreciate it. I knew, like Walter, I knew in my heart that deer was dead.
Yeah.
I just did, based on what I saw on video, what I heard, and I mean, I've got still pictures. I don't know if I sent them to you, of the biggest mule kick I've ever seen in my life after he got shot. That there's just, a lot of people call it the death kick, and I just had so many things tell me that deer was dead. And if I didn't find it Sunday, by gosh, I was going to go back up there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I did not have. There's nothing in my mind that said I've got to quit looking for this deer. Now, I'd worked my tail off to look for it for, Friday night and most of the day Saturday. And, here in the South, as you know, it's pretty daggum hot in August, especially when that humidity's up and after them rains.
Sure.
And I had to take some time off and then go back out. But there was no question I was going to keep looking for that deer till I found evidence that he was either alive or dead, one or the other. So I didn't have it in my mind to even hunt Saturday or Sunday. I was going to find my deer that I knew I had killed.
Well, I mean, right. I think your setup was probably fine. Chase, last year you had trouble tracking several deer that you got solid hits on, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I ended up finding them all within like a couple hours. I had some help, but I've also had experience tracking deer and things of that nature, where it sounds like Adrian didn't really have that experience, because it sounds like luck has been on his side to where, and my friends kind of make fun of me too, because even when I shoot deer, it almost seems like they always die by like a road or like easy access where I only got to drag them 30, 40 yards. Yeah, exactly. So, but if you don't have any experience with that, and I've even got experience, and even on one of my deer, a shot, we waited a few hours, and in Florida, like I said, it heats up. It gets hot. So it was pushing like 90 degrees when we start looking for one of those deer, and me and my buddy, and we're finding like little droplets of blood and stuff, and just being in the heat for a couple of hours, and it's your deer. So you're like real nervous, amped up, like hoping to find all this blood. And then I had some other buddies that were out there, And I called them. I'm like, hey, can you guys come help us look? And they get there, a fresh set of eyes, and boom, they're finding blood like almost right off the bat on the which way I thought that the deer had run. They're like, oh, there's blood, there's blood, there's blood. And we ended up finding the deer pretty quick after that. But it's just a matter of usually when you shoot it and there is a little bit of doubt there, then your things kind of seem like they kind of go haywire a little bit. And it's always good to get like a fresh set of eyes or somebody else in there to be like, oh yeah, because they're not nervous about it, and they want to help you. So
Right, right, and that's the thing too. Like a part of it was the arrow, best we can tell, went in and hit the opposite shoulder, and as he ran, like I've got some stills of the arrow that you can see goes in like at the full extent of contact where it hits the opposite shoulder. That arrow is in pretty deep, like definitely 3/4 of the arrow is in, but it's hard to see that in live action because as he's running off, it's working its way back out, and it looks like it might be even flopping a little bit at one point, but he ran 60 yards with it in. But my point being is, that hole that was made is still is being blocked. So there's not. That's why there was no blood, and we didn't find any blood till the arrow actually came out, and then there was like
monstrous.
It wasn't,
like, dude, that pile of like foamy stuff was nuts, dude.
yeah, it was sprayed as just as he entered the woods, but after that we couldn't find any more, and maybe it was overlooked, maybe some of it was washed off with the rain, but I'll tell you, the blood that we saw was after the rain. So that wasn't all washed off, and it was very much still there the next day. I just didn't see it that night. It was dark, and I just an error on my part for sure. But even if I did see it, I already knew that the deer went in the wood line based on the arrow and the way I found a couple of tracks right there at the beginning of the wood line up the ridge. But after that, I didn't find any more blood. So. I've helped other people track, and even the deer I've killed in the past, I've watched fall, or like I said, I've heard fall. Just to help myself, because I was still always trying to learn and better myself. I went and tried to follow blood trails. I can remember 2 years ago, I shot one during the rut, and I was hunting with Catman, and he's probably about 200 yards away, and I watched the deer. I could see his belly. It was about 40 yards away. And I was trying to pack up my saddle gear and get all my stuff out of the tree. And Catman comes walking at the base of the tree. And I get down, and I'm trying to follow the blood trail. And he's like, what are you doing? Your deer's right there. And he's fussing at me. I'm like, I want to see what this blood trail did, and just trying to, as if the deer was not there, to see if I could track it, even though I knew where the deer was at. So, anyway, hopefully, it was a learning experience too. I've never experienced it. It's pretty scary, but luckily for me, it had a happy ending.
Yeah, and I mean, I watched the video, and I mean, I knew what had happened before that, but even when I saw the shot, like if I had not known what had happened, I was still like, that's a dead deer. Like that deer's not going very far. He's dead. Like the shot placement and everything was perfect. I mean, at least that's what it looked like from the YouTube video. So in my mind, it was a dead deer. Like you said, I had that gut feeling like that deer is dead. I know it's dead somewhere. I just can't find it.
And that was a tough thing because, I didn't put my hands on the deer with meat. So I couldn't see exactly where the shot was after the fact. Like looking at the video, I had the angle of the shot, I think definitely helped. I'm critiquing myself. So I'm thinking it might be a touch high or a touch forward, maybe. But, it's hard to tell. Like I've seen pictures of deer that look huge, and then when you see them in real life, you're like, it's not as big as I thought. So even in video, it's kind of hard to tell. But based on the way I'm going based mostly up the way the deer reacted, the sound of the shot when it entered its body, and then that mule kick and the run. Like I knew he was dead, and like you'd mentioned earlier, I've got some buddies that they sell film, and where they've shot a really nice deer, and they put what I would consider a money shot all day long. Can't find the deer, and then a week later to 2 weeks later, it's back on trail camera. It's amazing. It's amazing that these deer can live what they live through.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you go on the other end of the table where you see somebody and then you see the shot or where the arrow entered the deer at. And you're like, how did that deer die? Like, how did they find that deer so fast? Because the shot looks horrible. Just from viewing a picture of it, you're like, whoa, that's way back or that's whatever. And it could have it clipped an artery or whatever. And the deer dies super fast. I mean, so there's all kinds of instances where weird things can happen, where a bad shot can turn into a no tracking job or a great shot can turn into, like you mentioned, the deer's back on trail camera, a week later.
Well,
it's crazy. I mean, go ahead, Walter.
Well, I mean, the deer I shot last year, there were periods of where, it was like the quintessential double lung shot. I mean, it's just a perfect shot. And there are periods where you couldn't find blood if you tried. There were other periods where there was a lot, but it was always surprising to me. It was like, how could I go 15, 20 yards and not find any blood, and then it would be painted, whereas I got shot a yearling one time, and that joker collapsed within 30 yards, and it looked like you had sprayed the ground with just buckets of blood. I mean, some of this is just varied, dude. I mean, it's just weird sometimes how it plays out.
I think it comes down to, and Chase said it, that I think you're hitting at some point. You're hitting a major artery.
Yeah.
I can't sit here and dissect all the parts of the deer. But like I know someone who's recently killed a nice buck in velvet and doesn't go as planned and hits him way back, like toward the rear end of the deer, and then the deer dies. And it's got to be hitting an artery of some sort. And like you said, it's amazing that you see the money shot, and then a few weeks later, that deer is walking around on trail camera. It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is, man. I'm sorry it played out the way it is, but I am glad you found the deer, and it does provide you with a degree of closure that you may not have gotten otherwise. I mean, you know how that played out for that animal, and that's still a hell of a start to the season, dude. I mean, there are hunters sitting all over the country right now who would kill to have a deer of that magnitude in velvet. I mean, good God, dude, that's like a double pipe dream for a lot of people.
Yeah, again, it was my first, and it was, I thought about it a lot. Us as hunters, we're lying to ourselves if we don't sit there and daydream about certain situations happening or certain bucks coming in to your path and having that opportunity. And we joked a little bit earlier today that it couldn't have been a better setup for me. I mean, I did my homework, but you know what? I did my homework last year too, and it didn't work out. Like the deer that I had last year coming in, it was a morning situation that was coming in at 6:30 every morning. The day I'm there doesn't come, and it was an everyday thing for that one. So, there's no telling what these deer are going to do, but your early season gives you the best chance, and it worked out, and that he came in and gave me the opportunity. So again, the patterning of these deer early season just gives you the best opportunity. That you can even have a target buck. So many guys are after a certain buck or a target buck. If you can find him early season and know that pattern, that's just going to be your best chance to do it. Like when I went to Atlanta a couple weeks ago, or for the Georgia opener, they don't have you were there down in southern Georgia, I guess, or was it North Georgia? But I felt really good about my chances of maybe coming across another good deer or at least a shooter deer of sorts. And because it was opening day and nobody had been in there. And I didn't see a deer that whole trip, except for when I was driving one morning right before I got to where I was going. But I sat Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, and then Sunday morning, did not see a single deer. I was in 3 different locations each time, but I mean, that's just how it goes.
Right. Well, Adrian, in the preparation for this, and like you mentioned that you had set up some kind of some preset stuff for your saddles. Did you have any like plan B, like if the wind was all wrong or anything like that?
Well, I didn't actually have preset stuff for saddles. Like when maybe I worded wrong. I was preset with my cameras, like, and I had some locations picked out
Okay.
based on the wind. So this was, again, it goes down to I couldn't have asked for a better situation. I had some other places picked out to hunt there if the wind was not going to be good at this spot. This was my number one spot I wanted to be at, and I knew Friday and Saturday the wind was going to be good for it based on the forecast and what I was seeing. And then Sunday, if we got to that point, it was going to be iffy. Yes, there was a couple other locations, but this was, again, my first choice, and it just worked out that way for me to go in and get set up and not be winded by that deer.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering, because earlier I was thinking that you had already put like some predators in and everything was set up for you guys just to walk right into that location. But it sounds like that wasn't the case. It was more like you had trees already picked out for each instance.
I had that, and that was the extent of it. So when I was setting up the cell cameras in the first place, I was putting them. Some of the spots were based on, like I was getting these deer coming out to the cornfield. What I was doing in the evenings, and so I'd set up trail cameras based on sign I saw of deer coming out to the cornfields, and from there I made one more trip and adjusted my cameras a little bit and looked for, okay, this is where I'm going to hunt based on this wind direction. I did not want to booger these deer up that I had on camera, so I did not even go to cut down limbs or set anything up. I was literally in there twice in probably 2 or even 3 months, because actually before I had the cell cameras up, I had some older cameras up that were non-cell cameras. So I just really felt, to give myself the best chance, I just didn't need to be in there at all.
Okay. Was this a small, medium, large size property that you were on?
It was 450 acres of property, but I was only on maybe a quarter, if that, of the property. I literally parked, walked down an old logging road to a cornfield, and had to cross through one cornfield to get to another cornfield. And I never had to reach the interior of the property at all. I just felt like, with the river on one side of the cornfield and the timber and the ridges. So my homework had told me I'd found some buck beds on the top of the ridge, looking over the cornfield in the summertime back in June, and I felt like that's where these deer were coming from. Obviously, I don't know that that's the particular buck I shot. I don't know if that was his spot. Like there was 4 beds up there that were rather big, and they were on a point where they could look out, and then the wind, the predominant wind, would come up from behind them, and so that's why I really put a camera in that location to begin with, because that was the corner of the cornfield, and that the bedding was probably 150 yards away, and that's why I kept looking in the bedding area for my buck because that's where I thought he probably ran off to. But he actually, when he went up the hill, instead of taking a right at the top of the hill, he went down the backside and went back to his left.
I mean, it's a hell of a start to the season, dude. I'm proud of you, man. That's you ended last year with that killer buck, and you kicked off this year. Where are you headed from here? Like, is it all going to be uphill, or are you going to just start smashing spikes to kind of create an equilibrium in the universe?
I can't do that. I'll save those for Parker.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
um, I love Parker. Um, I can't do that. Like I said, I got to be happy with it. I wouldn't be happy with it. Now, I don't judge you if you do it. If you want to do it and that makes you happy, I'm happy. I'm happy for you. I'm going to celebrate with you. Well, I'll do that. I'll be the first one to join in that celebration. But no, again, I don't know numbers. If it looks like a big deer, I want to shoot that big deer. That's kind of how I feel. I'll be happy to take some does out as well. But um, coming weekend, probably won't be out Saturday unless I go Saturday afternoon. My daughter has her last travel softball tournament of the year, which I love her and I love softball, but I'm kind of glad because it's hunting season. So I'll be at softball early morning, 8 o'clock on Saturday, and I hope they do well and win the whole thing. But if I can get out and go hunt after that, that'd be great. If not, I plan on going to church Sunday morning and then heading out right after that.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. Well, tell everybody where they can see this video.
If you go to the Tethered YouTube channel, I don't remember the title of the video, but Tennessee Velvet Buck. And what's funny, the picture I think they have on that is the picture from me on Saturday. I was so confident that I was going to find that deer. I'm carrying a cart to carry my deer out on. And I was kind of mad. Well, I take that back. I was really mad that I had to drag that cart out of there and drag it right back with nothing on it. So that's the picture of that. And Aaron Warbritton, he always says it's bad juju to carry your cart in without actually seeing the deer. And I probably, need to listen to that dude quite a bit more. So I'm going to start asking myself would Aaron do this? And if he wouldn't, I'm not going to do it.
There's some truth to that, and here's why. I have found that when I don't take my little cart for the back of my truck, the little tailgate hitch, whatever, I can put the deer on, the one time I didn't take that, I shot that doe last year. And I got to thinking about it. I had to call my wife and have her bring that thing out so that I could load the deer up on the back of it. So this year, I'm not taking any retrieval stuff. If I need to, I'll have my wife meet me out there with it because I think I'm jinxing myself.
Well, during deer season, I usually leave a cart in the back of my truck. I like every day. I just don't ever take it out, just in case. I want to change that too. Like I haven't done this, but I want to get into where I'm packing the deer out in a backpack after I've cut them up.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never done that.
It's a blast.
I'm kind of like Chase. I've been pretty fortunate when the deer I've killed, even on public land, it's just a short haul. But some of these locations I do hunt in, I've passed up some does because I'm like, I don't want to take her out of here. And if I'm hunting this far back, I'm shooting the Big Daddy. And the Big Daddies haven't ever shown up. So.
Well, dude, I appreciate you taking time out your evening. I know you're going from here. You're running to a softball doubleheader, and it's always a blast talking with you, man. I'm glad we were able to do it again.
Yeah, man. I love talking to you guys, picking on Walter especially. I do it.
That's a fan favorite.
I do it in a good natured way. part of it is because I feel sorry for you living in Chase's shadow most of the time. So I try to ease the tension between you guys. I mean, because I think the world of you and whatnot. So I try to keep things lively. But yeah, I've got about an hour before my youngest has a doubleheader tonight, and I was glad to spend some time this afternoon joking around. And I mean, it's not like I'm a long-winded talker either. Wink, wink. I know I am. I know I am. It's okay. I can own it. When you get me talking deer hunting, I won't shut up.
Hey, we tell all of our guests it is always better to have a guest that talks a lot because when I'm editing it, it's real easy. All right, Bubba. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. Hang on 1 second, and I'll close this thing out. Guys, I am jonesing to get into the outdoors. This season has been a blast thus far, talking to people who've got it done early, sharing those stories. But I'm ready for Chasing Tales to start making our own stories. So until next time, until that point, which we're sharing that story with you, get outside and enjoy the great outdoors.